All right, what about now? Is that working? I clicked a button. Did that button work? Bueller. Yes. Okay. Cool. All right. Sorry. Sometimes you just got to turn it off and turn it back on. So yeah, as always, right, for the next, I don't know, half hour, depending on how many more questions are there. Um, I'll be here to support trade ideas. So whatever questions you have with trade ideas or trading, ask your questions. Basically, what I was talking about, you probably saw me click through my charts, but what I've been looking at here is debating a trade on the weed sector. And it's because everybody hates the weed sector right now. And sometimes those are the best plays. Just like hold your nose and buy. Uh, Beauty of it is you know right where you're wrong. Yeah, Barry's not streaming on YouTube anymore. I guess it was doing bad things to his computer. So you can just go to tradeadeas.com. You can join the site there. But they're still opening the room for say a half hour to an hour to see if there's any questions that roll in about trade ideas and go from there. It's kind of the idea. So yeah, so my idea here with MSOS or the weed sector was after the election, it smashed through, like fell 25% the day of, kept crashing before then, hit and broke through this all-time low that it did in um the this $5 area, broke this last week, and then look at the massive bottoming tail here last week. So sold off throughout the week, and then buyers just came in and bought it up all week. So my idea is, listen, I know where I'm wrong now, right? If I wanted to take a shot on the wheat sector, I could, if we start to see some strength this week, give it a few days, see what happens. But if we see some strength this week, then I could pick some up. And I know right where I'm wrong, under $4. Okay, time to go. The idea is that anyone who shorted right here as we broke all-time lows, they're wrong. Anyone who got stopped out of their position, they're looking at it right now saying, oh man, I got stop run. Um, so maybe, right? Maybe that will be good for me. I'm thinking of giving it a shot anyway. And then the two ways I'm thinking about maybe doing it, and I might do a combination of these, is first CGC, which is Canopy Growth. Again, these companies are awful. These are awful, awful companies, and they're awful, awful businesses. But we're just talking about taking a trade here, right? Taking a shot. If this can get back through $4, and it's kind of doing the same pattern where it undercuts an important low and then starts to push higher, that might be a trade. And then also MSOX. MSOX is MSOX right here. So this is a double leveraged. I think it's a double leveraged of the cannabis sector. So if this starts moving, then you have the potential, or if MSOS starts moving, then this is going to move double it. But like a lot of these things, these ETFs degrade. Yeah, they degrade over time, right? So they push lower over time. So looking to see maybe this gets back through $1, right? You take a shot at it. If it closes the gap, it gets $2. That'd be double. That'd be great. So I might put, a bit of my money in CGC or something like a Tilray or something like that, and then some of it in this MSOX and just take a shot. And basically have the game plan be MSOS, if MSOS closes like anywhere near this $4 area, I'm wrong. It's time to go. If we start to come up through here and start to close the gap slowly over time, that's great. It's $5 to $7 on this ETF, and then you imagine in individual names and in leverage ETF, you're gonna get more than that. So that's the only like trade I've really been kind of pondering through this week. uh, just to see if there's anything. Um, it's one of those things that like I'm very long a lot of things. I run a lot of algorithms that do the trading and the stock selection and all that kind of stuff for me, and that leaves my brain more open to um, more open to think about stuff, right? Where I'm not desperately looking for what to do next because in most cases my systems are just going to tell me what to do next, right? um so I get a lot of time to think, to ponder, to do all that kind of cool stuff. But again, we got to remember it is a bad sector. This is just um it's not a good sector. It's not a good sector you want to be with for sure. Whoa, what is going on here? And my computer just go nuts. I was just trying to play some music. Just do it on YouTube. Hey, what's up, Joe Schmo? Mike C. Only two people using that room trading penny stocks. I think the room in at the tradies room generally has like 200 in it. So definitely not two by any stretch. But so that's the only thing I'm really looking at in the market. It's really there's not much else, right? We got the SPY. It's hanging out right at these prior highs right here. That's going to be an interesting area to watch over the next few days. See if we hold that. If we hold that and start to push higher, then then great. If not, then right, we come down. Maybe we come down to these lows right in here. Either way, it's still kind of bullish action. So there's really we're big in a wait and see type mode. So hey, Joe Schmo, got premium trade is cool. So yeah, and I'm going to leave this open for until 12:30 anyway. See if there's some questions coming in on how to use the software. Uh, if there's nothing, then I'll take off and you guys can go back to the room. But if there's any questions, definitely make sure that you ask them for sure. Something cool that we do as well, right? How about the psychedelic? So, yeah, I have some mind med. Right. I have some mind med for like five. I've been sitting on forever. Yeah, back when it came and retest this $5 area that it broke out of. Obviously scalped out a big chunk as it moved higher. But yeah, I saw there was some CYBN news today. That was good, and then it pulled back. So this market cap of 8.8 billion on this guy is a pretty big deal. The um the uh it's very volatile sector because it's a experimental sector, right? None of these companies make any money because it's not legal to sell what they're making. Right? It just doesn't can't you can't sell it. So uh what what you're basically betting on with these companies is you're betting on trial results, right? You're betting on a whether psychedelics are going to be a thing in the future. that are going to replace some pharmaceuticals that exist now. The um, wrong market cap, maybe. Oh, they did a reverse split recently. Sometimes it takes a day or two to for the systems to update. The so right, they're going to be very volatile now because they're 100% news driven, right? It's not like a company like McDonald's, right, where they have bad news, but you can go, oh yeah, but they still make money and all of that, right? The uh, the market cap's only about 200 million. Yeah. So what you're doing is you're just betting which of these companies, and if you don't want to, you can just go PSIL, which is just the psychedelic sector. So this PSIL would kind of be your bet that psychedelics as a whole are going to be a thing in the future, in a couple of years time, that you're going to start to see companies getting approval to use these for, in a lot of cases it seems like it's like mental, so depressive disorder, anxiety, autism. I've heard some talk of things like that. So that's the PSIL, the ETF is the easiest way to kind of make that bet. If you're trading things like CYBN and all of these, then you're basically going to try to bet who is first to do that, like um, which of these is first. Uh, and the recent run in them, again, I'm told by my podcast co-host Steve, because I don't really look at these, but these recent massive rips that came from him is that RFK, who is your guys' health minister or is going to be your health minister, has spoken positively about psychedelics for PTSD treatments and things like this. So the idea is that maybe he would fast track some sort of a thing. But generally, what you're betting with these companies is that if you believe in what they're making and that the thing's going to happen, what will happen is like a Johnson and Johnson or a Pfizer or something like this will just come along and buy them, right? They'll just come along and go, uh, right? If MindMed, for example, which is doing LSD, right? And the whole company's worth $500 million. If it looks like they're going to pass these trials, and again, this is generally what happens in the small cap biotech sector, right? Is if you believe in what the company's doing, then eventually a large company, right? So MindMed's worth 500 million, LLY is worth $620 billion. Eli Lilly, right? Pfizer's worth 140 billion. So one of these companies is going to come along and say, okay, we'll give you like 5 billion for your company. And that will just happen one day overnight. And they'll say, listen, we're gonna get $5 billion. Then we get the company, we get the FDA, we get all your staff that knows what they're doing, and we'll just buy you out. And the idea there is just being that they want to, if the companies want to have their own version of this as opposed to going through all the trials themselves, they just buy a company that's like halfway or very close to being along that trial, and they just buy them to say, okay, you're ours now, and now we'll push them through as well. So they're interesting, but like anything for me, it's going to be all technicals. I was way more interested in MindMed as it had broke this downtrend line. Right, you can see one touch, two touch, and then broke the downtrend. It looks like we're bleeding back through. If we close in this zone, then I'm less interested. I want us to see us close outside of that. Then that would actually make a successful touch of the trend line from the other way. And then maybe if we get a bounce from there, that's when I would really look to kind of hammer in. If this, say this reverses over the next day or two and it closes back above the trend line, we'll go from there. I have some. I have a tiny amount that I bought at this $5, because this was actually a trade of the week right there, and it broke through and it did great. So when it came down, I noticed it was back at $5. I bought some, and it's one of those. It's like in a long term account that I'm not. It's not going to change my life one way or the other, kind of thing. I have rules that say if I ever buy anything that just goes ballistic like that, where, say I buy 1,000 shares and, that 1,000 shares here would have cost me, well, $5,000, and then I'm selling 2/3 of the position, I'm making more than $5,000, um, then, I'm just gonna hold that other couple 100 shares that I basically have for free. I'm gonna throw them in another account, I'm gonna look at them, like, once every few years because they were, like, free shares the market gave me. I'll let's look at gold next, but in the meantime, do I know JJ VWAP Trader from, do they do the Confessions of a Market Maker stuff? I think if it's the same guy, I've been on his podcast before. He seems interesting. Um, the biggest percent gain I've had on the stock is probably a couple 100%, but would also have been an incredibly volatile stock, so I wouldn't have taken a crap ton with it, right? Gold. So someone's asking about gold. So gold is interesting because it had this big blow off top after the election. Again, for me, that's just one of those. You generally see that kind of action in gold when there's like a big binary event that's over. Like people are hedging, and then all of a sudden the world didn't end, so they end up kind of unwinding that hedge. But it doesn't, invalidate this trend in gold. So I am watching to see if we are going to dig in around this area. And if we dig in for a couple days and start to push higher, um, the yeah, if we dig in and push higher, then that's good, right? That's exactly what we want to see, right? So I want to give it a few days. If it just V bounces from here and goes back to 260, I'll miss it. But I just want to see kind of more evidence that the buyers are coming in here on gold. That's my plan anyway. I don't know. Got possibly a spam email from him. I think you're sub. Yeah, well, I don't recommend him on Substacks. I don't really know him. I think the only Substacks that I recommend are people that I know. I'm just looking at it here. So like Andrews, Andrew Moss, Brian Lund, all these guys I do recommend on Substack, but I don't. Substack has like a recommendation thing where if there's someone that you end up liking, like you end up knowing, you can. So basically, if someone signs up for my Substack, like the next screen is a bunch of other Substacks that are like related to mine. So I put some other Substacks that I read on it, but they're basically just like trading friends of mine. Again, like Andrew Moss is a good one. Um, Brian Lund is great. All that stuff. I keep getting the JJ at VWAP Trader too. Not from me. I don't think it's from me. Substack. All my Substack here. Recommendations. Yeah, no. The Yeah, I recommend the Lund Loop, which is Brian Lund's, which I like. Cubic Analytics, which is Caleb, who's a big crypto guy. I like his work. Pristine Capital is Andrew, and he does good work. Trading Adventures is another Andrew, and he does work there. The Systematic Trading, that as well. And that's it. So yeah, never use Substack. I like Substack, so I do a daily free email and then a weekly paid email. Um, but yeah, I like Substack. It's just you sign up for newsletters that you like, and it does it. It suggests new newsletters and things like that. So it's just a good I'd rather spend my time reading that than reading like Twitter's. It's all politics and crap I don't care about. It's just me personally. With the strategy trades window on TIs, we're talking about the AI now. Let me bring that up. New. Um, so to be honest, for me with the AI, I just open up a channel. I think it's the best way to do it. Then I scroll down to the bottom here and just open up that. I don't use it myself too much. I'm not really a day trader. That's something I'm looking to get into a little more, but just day trading doesn't suit my personality as much as swing trading and the longer term stuff. Just more of a chill guy, right? Uh, okay. So no, these will continue to update throughout the day. You'll continue to get more trades throughout the day. Most, I would say, are going to happen in that first 30 minutes to an hour, and that's just mainly because that's when the market is most active, is that first 30 minutes to an hour. So that's when you'll get most of them. But if some of the strategies see anything throughout the day, you can have those trades there. So see it shorted CYBN kind of right here, as that failed the gap up, that kind of thing. Um, yeah, I can give you this layout here. 5 Signature cloud, copy. So if you just take that link and click on it, or save it for later, then you should be able to open that, no problem. But yeah, the how I found that, if you want to look at it, is just go new and then docked channel bar. And then these are all kind of pre-made channels that we have. So the channels are just layouts. So we have pre-made layouts for you, for different things that people might be interested in. And I click the show more button down here, and I scroll down to the bottom, and you can see there's an AI section right there. So I use those channels a lot because I'm switching around to a lot of different things, and I just want to make sure that I'm um, yeah, just kind of bopping around and just seeing what's interesting or what's happening at the time. I just don't want to keep everything open on my computer all the time and just have it, weighing down the system. So I just kind of open up things as I need them. But yeah, definitely. You said you're new. Definitely check out the channel bar. Right. Yeah, yeah, you can save that layout. So as soon as you open that up, right, you can just right click on the title bar and just hit save or share to cloud. I always recommend, instead of hitting save, that you save it to the cloud here. Right. So you can save it locally, but I always recommend saving it to the cloud, just because if something happens to your computer, which happens, right? which something gets corrupted or a hard drive explodes or any number of things that can happen to a computer, then it doesn't matter. It's like one less thing you have to worry about because you can just uh you can when you're resetting everything up with Trade Ideas, if you have your latest site saved to the cloud, then all you have to do is load it from the cloud and just click a button and move on. And I've had that happen to me before, and it is no fun at all. Having to, especially once you really get into the program and you've got like um, your own style, like you have your thing that you do, and right, you've got everything saved and it's all like in a location you like, and then boom, all of a sudden you get a power outage or something that just messes up your system. And yeah, it's a nightmare. So one less thing to worry about if that occurs. So yeah, always, always, always save to the cloud. It will always be there waiting for you. And also, right, if you're using it on multiple computers, like all kinds of stuff that you can do. All right, later, Joe. As a beginner, would you recommend to start to trade? Yeah, I think the AI is a good starting point for a couple of reasons. One is you've got some statistics on your side, so you're not just doing shit, willy nilly. You're not just I'm going to take this trade because some guy on the internet told me to. Right? There's some amount of back testing and statistics and all of that will help you out. The other reason is that there's a stop loss and a risk management plan for each one, and that's where most traders get in trouble. Is not necessarily their knowledge of the market versus another guy. It's generally more to do with the fact that the difference between good traders and bad traders, I would say more than anything else, has to do with uh, how disciplined they are with risk management. Do they have a risk management plan? All of that kind of stuff, right? That's the biggest deal. And if you can combine, and this is what I do with my own trading, even though I'm not a big day trader, with more swing trading, long term trading, I have systems that I run that just spit out, here's a good swing trade, here's a good swing trade, that kind of thing. Um, and they all have risk management plans associated with them. So that takes a lot of that off the table. And then what I would start doing is uh, start um, recording everything, right? So start taking these trades, even just in paper. If you're very new, right, start paper trading them. Don't trade them for real, and start recording them. Start saying, okay, this trade did well. This trade did poorly. Things like this, right? Just start trying to. And then as you start recording your trades, you'll start to notice patterns in those trades. You can start to get better, all of that kind of stuff, right? So that's a good way to get started. So, which alerts are for intraday trading, swing trading, long-term trading? It's going to depend on your time horizon. There's the AI is generally built for day trading, but there's a lot of people that use it for swing trading, right? They will buy I don't know, let's find something long here. Yeah, it's UPLD, right? So this UPLD, the system has long for a day trade. But right, if you like the chart, and it's breaking out of this low base. It's on 12 times normal volume today. If you like this for a swing trade, then you're going to hold it for a swing trade, right? So it's one of those, um, because what trade ideas provides is the picks and the shovels, right? And you're out there digging, then it's whatever it is you end up liking the best. So a lot of people use that, or some people may say, "Oh, I'm going to build a scan to buy things that are hitting the 200-day moving average," and that's to me a day trade or a swing trade set. Some may look at that and say, "Oh, well, I might take that and use that as a day trading setup," right? So it just depends which of these you end up liking. So, right, Fate Therapeutics, big pop off $200 with 40 times RVOL. If you end up liking this chart, even though it was picked to you from the AI for a day trade, doesn't mean you couldn't take a swing trade on it. Right. So it ends up being, you know, whatever it is that you want it to be. Now, I will say, don't look at it kind of super binary like that. That can cause problems, right? If you're looking at it as like this binary thing where it's either a day trade or a swing trade. Again, the best swing trades, I would argue, come from really good day trades, and vice versa. Like, so if you're in a trade, we can use this hut that I bought today, for example. Let's go back to my charts. I like my colors better. Hut, and then let's go in. So the idea between huts is I have a system that I run. Um, that looks for pullbacks and really strong start stocks. So this green line is where the system this morning said, "Hey, buy Hut 8 uh, because right you've back tested a system back to 1980 that says if you buy names like Hut 8 and you hold them for a week or so, you generally make money." So that starts with a statistical stand. But then I think you always apply your human thinking on top of it. I didn't just buy it right here when it was selling. What I did is just said, okay, here's the 30-minute top of the 30-minute bar that lines up roughly with 25 bucks. So I just put a buy stop order at $25. If you break through $25, I'm going to buy it. I'm probably going to stop myself out, down here if this fails. Um, but you can see that I took the idea that the system gave me, and then I'm going to tweak it. And then this particular system that I built to sell it next Monday. But if this thing's ripping, and say I look over at Bitcoin, we can just look at that with IBIT. And let's say IBIT is ripping. Well, I'm not just going to sell because the system told me to, right? So, systems tradings is very very good for guides, right? And that's at least my opinion on it anyway. Is that uh, you should use them as such. You should use them as guides to make sure that you're starting with a base of a statistical knowledge. That's the way I look at it. Is I want to be started instead of just started with drawing some squiggly lines in a chart and saying, "Hey, this is the way it starts." You start with just some sort of a either something like I did when I did this MSOS, where I have this overall thinking and pattern and reasoning behind the trade, or you start off with a system and the system says, "Hey, you should buy this thing here, you should sell this thing here." And then from there, you end up applying technical analysis and everything to that, right? So the other trade I took today was JNPR, because this is a mean revision system that I'm running. Mean revision just meaning buy stuff as it's selling, as long as the name is overall strong. And that's what I did, right? So you can start with combining these things. I think is going to be the best thing, right? Pure technicals or pure fundamentals or pure uh, stat arb or pure sentiment or whatever it is probably isn't going to be the king by itself. There's going to be some combination of technicals, fundamentals, scanning, these types of things together are really going to combine in order to, I think, personally, give people the best results. But that's just me, and I'm just some guy on the internet. So, all right. So we have another 15 minutes for questions, or if they dry up before then. So make sure you're asking away. I have noticed that the AI breakout long strategy pairs over well with the long terms. Yeah, so the breakout long strategy, this is one that I created myself, so I know all about it. Most of these, I think all of them actually, I created myself, um, or at least tweaked myself. And yeah, the idea behind this is pretty simple, and it's that you have some sort of gap. You have that gap breakout continuing in the direction of the overall gap. And then you have that happening on pretty extreme relative volume. And the extreme relative volume is just a proxy for there's some type of news event that's occurring, right? Just a very basic way of saying just that, right? So this UPLD, for example, it had a gap up, it broke in the direction of its underlying gap, and it's doing that on 12 times normal volume. So a lot of volume on this gap. So I don't need to be, a genius to know that there was some amount of news that took place here, whatever it is. Not really too concerned, but it's a nice breakout. So then you could, yeah, I could very easily, David, see a very simple swing trading strategy where you kind of maybe don't exactly follow Holly's entries all the time, but you just look at the breakout longs and say, "Hey, I am I'm going to look at this name that was spit out by this system and see if this is something that you potentially like the longer term chart of, because it's gapped and it's moving and it's going as well. Then the I want to take that trade in that direction of that underlying move, right? There was some sort of news event that kicked this thing in the butt, so it's just figuring out which of those it is. For you putting in a 0.5% trail, that's gonna cause all kinds of problems, especially if you're trading cheap stocks, right? 'Cause you gotta think about it, like a 0.5% on even a $10 name, 0.5% on a $10 name is going to be insanely small, like sub pennies. So that's gonna cause a myriad of issues. So it may just be that your stop is just way too tight to be kind of at all considered reasonable. That's usually where trailing stops cause problems. is because we try to in the back tester you do a good job of doing like what spreads will do, all this kind of stuff. So right, be cognizant of that, right? Make sure that you're doing what you're doing kind of makes sense in the real world. Right, 0.5% on a $10 stock. Well, 1% on a $10 stock is 10 cents. So 0.5% of a trailing stop would be a 5-cent trailing stop. So yeah, um, getting stopped out at weird prices would make perfect sense, right? If you just think of it in that way. Which tab on Holly AI? Um, the strategies trades tab. So, for example, if I just open up strategies trades and I just selected right now, it's filtered long and short, but if I just go all, then these are all the trades that were recommended today, and that will also populate with the new ones as they come in. Recommend an extra filter strategy similar to a trailing stop. Not really. Trailing stops are fine. You just got to make sure that they're reasonable, right? You can't use a 5-cent trailing stop, especially on anything that's moving, because right, like, if we look at this UPLD, just take this for example. Let's actually use a more expensive one, CYBN. So 0.5%, 1% of this would be, sorry, 10% of this would be $2, 1% would be 20 cents, half percent would be 10 cents. Then just look at the chart. Does it make sense that a 10-cent move on this thing, right? This candle right here, this 1 minute candle is over 10 cents. So does it make sense that a trailing stop like that would work on a stock this volatile, right? For something like this, you're going to have to use, even 20 cents is ridiculous, right? You're going to have to use probably a 50-cent a trailing stop in order to make that make sense. Um, and that's just part of the problem with trailing stops, right? And stops in general is that if you're using a basic percentage or dollar amount, the math is going to be a bit wonky and hard to deal with. Is why stops should kind of be adjusted per symbol in a way that makes sense. So and yeah, it's one of those things that you always got to remember when you're back testing stuff. The important thing that you make sure that you do is every time you do a back test, is you ask yourself, is this something that I could realistically achieve in the real world when it comes to how stocks actually trade in real life? Because the idea is that you're looking for to trade these things, right? So if you're doing things that won't work in the real run, in the real world, then even if you create the prettiest back test that ever existed, it doesn't help you put any money in your pocket. Is there a way to apply a trading strategy between, yeah, you just select price, right? So you just change, right? If you go to any any scan or any strategy or anything, and just say configure, and then always the top option when you're configuring your strategy is going to be price. So you just say, I want price what, $5 to $10. Boom. That's the easy bit. Now, instead of doing it based off of price, if you're having a problem with stops, it would probably make more sense to do it off of um, volatility, right? Today's range, that type of thing. That would make way more sense than doing it off of price. Um, because yeah, price is going to be wishy washy, right? You can have a $1 stock that doesn't move at all. You could be you could find a $1 stock that is incredibly volatile, and that's none of that is weird as at all, right? Well, yeah, you should set everything on the alert because then you back test it from the alert window, and only when you have an alert window that you have tested robustly should you ever put it in a brokerage plus. And then when you put it in a brokerage plus, obviously do it in paper mode first, and then trade that as is, and then from there maybe start to expand it out. But yeah, I would always test, and then again test. The process should be test, watch, right? Just take a day, and as the alerts come through, click on them, and go through different time frames of charts and all that kind of stuff. And make does is this triggering roughly where I think it should based off what I'm testing? Are the stops I'm using reasonable based off everything that I'm seeing? Are the targets I'm using reasonable? All that kind of stuff. Then from there, over to paper trading and let it run for a bit. And again, if it's doing exactly what you would expect, then over to live, right? So a process of slowly trusting the system, I guess, more and doing a little bit more with it could certainly make sense. So, all right, guys, we seem to be out of questions here. I know Barry, I think, is back in the other room. So I'm going to end the stream here. As always, someone will be back to do more of this tomorrow. So if you have any more questions, just write them down today. Come by tomorrow and have them answered there. And I thank you guys for tuning in.